I would give anything for a lot more time. That's all. It's like use the time that you have to create what you want to create, because when that time's gone, it's gone. What have you done with today? What did you do today?
Hello guys, this is Steph and Alfie with Edit Undo. So as a creative, we do a lot of research, go look for inspiration, and I think it was a few weeks ago I was on Dribbble, Behance, all of those platforms looking for some inspiration for my own work, and I came across a local digital artist, and obviously as a podcast host, I had to take a screenshot and reach out to this person because his work was just too phenomenal to miss and not talk to him. So I reached out to Katt on email, and he was glad and happy and kind enough to respond and be keen and willing to talk to us today. So today we are speaking to a digital artist, Katt Phatt, and you can go look at his website. It's kattphatt with 2ts.com. We'll put the link there to see some of his work because it is insane. If you are a person who likes a level of granularity and detail to satisfy you, you will love his work. But I'll stop talking a bit and just say, Katt, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Wow, what an intro. Glad to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Amazing. Maybe to get us started, Katt, can you tell us, before we speak about your current work and what you're currently doing, can you tell us how you got into the industry? What is your background like?
Yeah, no problem. I love talking about my background because I've had to do it so many times. I didn't think I'd land where I am, obviously. I wouldn't say obviously because I really love what I do. I wanted to be a sports personality, like a soccer player.
Oh, really?
And, I wanted to be a soccer player, and I was doing really well back in school. I was even playing for Fluminense. It's a Brazilian club. But then there was an accident when I got back home that prevented like my soccer dream, you could say.
Sure.
My life took a different direction, and I don't know if that was like a necessary intervention. You never know. But from there, everything sort of went into an art space, and not necessarily like visual arts, but like I started dance. I was obsessed with dance, and this was when hip hop was really like hectic around Pretoria, like Joburg. Like there was a very big like crump culture, tutting culture. Like it was pretty cool. And in Pretoria, like there was a state theater. Like that's where everybody just went to just jam. There was freestyles. You could it was amazing. It was a very cool time that I don't think happens anymore. Like with social media and just everyone on like digital spaces. But yeah, that's the kind of place I grew up in, like just a creative space. And from there, I was then thrown into art, like visual arts, and like that was in high school, where it was I had to move from my specific high school to another high school in matric. So no, not in matric, in grade 11. So I found new people, you know what I mean? It's very difficult to move at that period because it's like you've pretty much set your stall with regards to your friends and like your clique and like this is who I am, and then you have to totally switch that around. So that was, yeah.
Was art always like something you were interested in before you stopped the soccer journey, or did it come about because of the accident or incident that you started?
Well, it's hard to say, because I like when you think back, like as a child, there's specific things that you remember, like from like your youth schooling days, like, and I'm specifically talking about like from crèche to like grade 2, and I think in that period, I was doing a lot of like drawing, and like, because now that my parents can tell me that I was pretty good at drawing back then, but it's not something that I took on, like it was a standout talent then, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do soccer, so it was, I guess I had an affinity towards it, but I didn't know it was a talent, I didn't know it was a thing you could make money from. Like that was never a concept to me, like at that age, and even to the stage where let me not jump forward. So I'm now in matric, new surroundings. My art teacher, because I wanted to do architecture, but I had to take science for architecture. And all of a sudden, I didn't like science anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know where this has come from. I wanted to do art, but I wanted to do architecture. That's where, like, I think the dimensionality from my work comes from. I've always had this fascination with like dimensions and like technical, stuff. So in my previous high school, I did technical drawing. Like I did that type of stuff because I really wanted to do architecture. So I did technical drawing. I did all that stuff, but the science, I was like, this is a painful subject, and I really don't like it. And I'm not gonna do this thing that I don't like. I'm very good with stopping things that I don't like doing. So I was like, okay, let me just jump into the art, even though I don't know where this is gonna go. So I was like, okay. So obviously my parents were a bit like, we don't know about this, but anyway, because my parents are like academics, like they both have their doctorates, and it's like there's a very big pressure, especially when it's mom and dad, and they both have doctorates. It's like, that's not me though. You know what I mean? Like, you can't. I don't think you get a doctorate in art. I'm not gonna be there, mom. Like, let it go. I'll find my own way. We'll see what happens. But anyway, new school teachers like, yo, you really have a talent for this. You should try and take this on. And I'm like, okay, because I was enjoying it. I wasn't gonna sit there and be like, it's not really my. I enjoyed what I was doing, and I learned a lot from teaching myself to enjoy it as well, because it was a subject, and then it became, because I moved from a public school to a private school. I went from a class of like I think 30 or so students to an art class of, I think there were 4 of us in the class. So it was a very big change, you know, and not just, and that was, and I mean, our matric class, I mean, matriculants, like the whole matriculant, I think we were, I don't know if we were more than 50. I'd be lying if I said we were more than 50. So it was a very small school, you know. And thankfully I went to this school because that art teacher told me about Open Window, like when we were getting close to matriculating. She's like, hey, have you heard about Open Window? My son goes there. They do some really cool stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea about what this is. Because from where I am, I'm thinking which university I'm going to. And my mom is also, you know, she saved me my university funds for the next 3 years. Like, I'm sorted. Did Open Windows, Mac, and
school
first school fees not take my 3 years of, you know, and, you know, I had to bring race into it, but black parents and like, you know, I've been saving and I've prepared for this. I've gone through this, so I know what is required. So when I come to you and I'm like, hey mom, here's a computer, I need this. It's about 30 grand. They go, what? That's like a whole year's worth of schooling. And I'm like, yeah, that's just a computer. I also need this. And then I also need this. And then I need that. And then they're like, wait a minute, what is this? You know what I mean? And I lived far from Open Window. So I needed to get an apartment close. And it was just like, okay. But I mean, that's my parents for you, man. Like, I don't need to convince them of much. I just need to tell them what I want to do, and they have always supported it.
That's amazing.
And sometimes begrudgingly, but they do support it. They go, "Hey, we don't like this, but go fly, man. We'll do what we can. Go spread your wings." And did I not spread my wings at Open Window and fail the first year? So I went to Open Window. Amazing people. College environment. Now I've moved from that high school environment, went to like 50 students, and then now it's like college, and nobody gives a cahoots about who you are. You know what I mean? And I'm there, and I'm like, okay, what's happening here? What's going on? Because there's third years, there's second years, there's like other students who aren't even like, and you're like, I mean, and this is the year that Open Window was moving to the new campus in South Downs.
Yes,
in South Downs,
So when was
it was like
this
a whole
2010.
This was 2010. This was 2010, yeah. So it was like, it was hectic, man, but it was fun because it was like new building, and like I loved the building itself. Like I loved Open Window because like the architecture. I was like, oh, this is great. I love this. This is so different to the house I was at, because like literally the high school I was at was like a plot, like a farm kind of situation. And our classes were in like different like houses, which is pretty cool. But that was the first year. Loved 3D, fell in love with 3D. The 3D lecturer, I remember this because I went from having zero 3D knowledge to I think I got 98% for 3D at Open Window. But every other subject, I don't think I even paid attention to. And that was the problem. Because like, but it was also like I had a problem grasping what I was doing there, you know? Problem number one, I had a big problem grasping what I was doing there. And that might be an issue, that might have been an issue of not only my parents' lack of awareness with regards to the situation, but it was also bad induction. I don't think we were inducted properly into that situation. I didn't know what I was expecting. And I don't know if, I don't think I was the only student in that situation, where I was just like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Let me just see, you know, what I can do here. Then at the end of the year, you found yourself with one module where you're like pretty good, and then other ones where you haven't really been even paying attention to them. You've been doing, you know, stuff here and there, and then you're like, you have to go from 3D Max to InDesign, and you're like, what is happening here? And then Photoshop, I had a bit of knowledge about, but Photoshop and InDesign at that early stage, when you have no idea about concepts, layout, and like, especially layout and design specifically. Like I went from art to having to learn design, and those are two very different things. And you need to at least warn someone about it. Like, yo, this is the space you're coming into. This is high school. Don't just go, yo, high school is nothing, man. Yeah. This is next level. That's nothing. You're just telling them, yo, this is another level. You're not going, hey, look, this is what you've been doing in high school. They've been teaching you these things, color theory, these principles. You're going to apply them in this specific way, so that your end goal, when you graduate from here, you know this, so you can use your skills to maybe do this, go into this field, go into this. Imagine having an hour, talk for your new students first year.
No, I remember.
So that everybody at least is on the same page.
Yeah, I had this conversation with one of the lecturers at Open Window, especially because in high school, the subjects related to most of our digital creative industries are so disjointed. So like I had design in high school, which was essentially drawing. There was no design element. And then going from having drawing as a subject in school to stepping into UX, there's such a gap of the curriculum that like what's taught creatively in high school to, you know, the actual profession that you can choose when you're at a varsity like that. There's such a large...
Biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
But I think there's an opportunity there.
Absolutely.
Like, there is an opportunity there. And like everywhere I've got like, so that's my open window story. So I failed here. Now I have to go back to my mom and like, yo, this is the situation. All that money.
Especially after
I
the
do have a
laptop,
Mac and I've,
the apartment.
no, it was an iMac.
Yeah.
So and it was even crazy because like, yeah. Anyway, that's year one. Now she's like, okay, so what's happening next year? I'm like, oh, I don't know, but I don't want to go back to open window because I was ashamed. I was like, like I was boss in that 3D class, but yeah, like I've never failed before. You know what I mean? I've never had that that feeling. And so I was like, can we go to a different school? Maybe it was the lecturers there. I don't know. Yeah, but it was genuine lack of understanding. Even though I should have gone back and like attempted harder, but I don't think I would have gotten to where I was had I stayed there because my attitude would have been very different. Because where I went next, which was Inkscape Design School in Pretoria, right? Inkscape Design School, I came there with a fresh perspective. I was a failure now, but it was still a college. So the fees still had to be forked out. But I at least had an iMac. I at least had some Adobe, you know, experience. I had the software. So I had an upper leg, you could say, on certain students, but I had to start from year one. But I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. But I'm such a social butterfly, man. So year two or first year again was hectic because man, I went out, man. I enjoyed 2011. 2011, 12 were highlight years, I think, in my life. Because, dude, we'll discuss that off air. But yeah. So 2011, I'm at Inkscape. I'm doing well in my opinion, right? Certain marks I was doing pretty well. Like I was in like 80s. And then certain ones I just wasn't. And which ones were they? Mainly typography. But it was like design. But mainly type theory, color theory, like stuff that I know. But I'm like, I don't care about the stuff. I want to train stuff that I don't know. But I'm not applying the stuff that I know so I can pass to get to second year. You know what I mean? Like this is not in my mind. I'm just like, I'm getting all these skills. I'm getting all these skills. This is great. But I'm not applying them. But anyway, I failed at Inkscape. So this is my second failure now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I have to go back home again and be like, yo, hey guys, this is the situation. But I've got specific modules, you know. I've got modules here, modules. I'm like, third time lucky, you know. Maybe am I going to go to the same school? Nah. I'm like, nah. Let me try something else. So my friend, my best friend, Bruno, he's at Vega School of Brand Leadership at the time, and what I have to commend Vega about is Vega say they're the school of advertising, you know. They say we are the school of, this is the industry you're going into. So immediately you go, advertising, what's this now? Because I went to Open Window year one, I went to Inkscape in my second year, and I had no idea about advertising. How does that work? You know what I mean? How do I not know how to market, sales? What am I doing? What industry am I going into? This is probably what my mom is thinking. My dad's going, what's actually happening here? Because we're spending money, but there's no, I'm not, you know what I mean? You can understand. So it's like, when I failed Inkscape, and Vega was my third option, things were different. Because then it became like, I mean, it wasn't even an ultimatum. My mom literally just said, look, you're wasting time here because other people, look at Bruno, you matriculated at the same time, but now he's about to go work. What are you doing? I'm sitting there, I'm like, she's right. She's not going A, B, C, or else. She's just going, yo, this is the situation you're in. What are you going to do? And I'm like, oh, that's true. And then imagine had Open Window drilled research into my mind, because they didn't. Imagine if Inkscape drilled research into my mind. They did. Because at Inkscape, I learned to research. So first year at Vega, I came in and I felt like, yeah, I'm a boss here. I can boss this. I know stuff, Yeah. I know stuff. I came in and the stuff that I was learning in first year, there was no evolution from what I had already known. So I could focus that first year into learning stuff I didn't, connecting all the dots, trying to figure out what exactly am I doing here. That was very important. So 2020, this is 2012. 2012, first year Vega was where the light bulb went on, and I was like, okay, here's a career path here. You come. You do this advertising course, you go, you work at an agency as this. And then I go, oh, okay, how do I become that? Okay, you need to know this and this and this and this. It's like, okay, I know this and this and this and this. It's like, okay, cool. So does everybody else. Who are you and why should they hire you? And this is first year. And I'm like, okay, but like, it should be my third year technically. But luckily, I got pushed back. And now I'm in a position where I can sit and be like, wow, I understand what the heck I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And you can then apply your own interests and stuff that you like to what you're doing. Because why you're doing what you're doing now makes sense to you. You know what I mean? You don't have to, you're just making stuff for whatever. You're creating work, you're creating conceptual work for a reason. This is to sell this product. Purpose, This is for this client. Yeah. So that was very important. That was a light bulb year. And also I surrounded myself with people that liked working. Things that I didn't like. Like I didn't like working late. I didn't like this. I didn't like this. But I surrounded myself with people that did. So when they did that, I was like, yeah, let me just be here. Let me just be here. You know what I mean? So I was there. And I was like, I was seen as the workaholic, but I didn't like it. I trained myself to, because in bringing the stuff that I like to the work that I started doing, I started enjoying it. I was like, wow, I really like this. Maybe I should try this. I like this. This is good. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to try this next time. Right now, I want to try this. Like things just started flooding to me that I wanted to do all of a sudden. And I was like, yo, now I feel like I don't have time. But I had all the time in the world, but I felt like I didn't have time because I knew what I wanted to do, and there were things that I should have been doing that I hadn't been doing. Now my work, the work that was required from me at school, had a lot more to it. It was meaty. It was like conceptual. It was like beautiful. I needed to come with that. I need to present that kind of stuff. Or else the 2 previous years were for naught. So. First, second, third year, Vega did extremely well. And I graduated from Vega. And 2014, there was this is what I think propelled my career forward, which was the One Club hosts a yearly event called Portfolio Night, right? And Portfolio Night, it's sort of like where... Do you know Portfolio Night?
I don't.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I think, is it part of the Behance portfolio?
No.
So it's DJ and stuff, or
it's a global event. It takes place in specific cities.
Oh, okay.
And so like there'll be one in the one that I went to, which is Portfolio Night 12. I went to Joburg, to Vega Joburg. And then there was one in Cape Town. And then it happens on the same night all over the world, where third year students, creative students go to, and they get their work judged basically by like industry leaders. So like you get to sit in front of a creative director. Your portfolio of the year, you present it. You go, okay, here's my work, here's what I do. You basically sell yourself. And this is where everything changed for me. Because I was like, okay, firstly, I know what I'm doing. So it should be easy to sell what I do. Right? Should it? Yeah. Okay. So I go there. I'm like, okay, here's my work. And also, like, my work wasn't far off. I mean, it was much less detailed, but it was in a similar vein to what I'm doing now. So I just... So back then it was like, oh, how are you here already? You know, but they didn't know about my journey. But I was happy to tell it.
Yeah.
Anybody that asked, yo, so how are you here? Because a lot of the creative directors who wanted to hire you, it wasn't even about the work. You know, it was like, okay, I like this guy. Tell me why you are here and how you are at this level. So you just sit and you just chat, you know, and that was my experience with a lot of them that night. But yeah, in all these cities, I won portfolio night Joburg, and another lady won portfolio night Cape Town, and so all of us, or the winners, are called All Stars, right? So the All Stars are flown to New York to compete in a 1 week advertising challenge.
Insane.
On a big brand, on a big campaign. So we did it on Puma's Forever Faster campaign. That was our brand challenge, pretty much. So we all meet up there.
Sure.
Language barriers you must get through. Like we had a Japanese lady. We had girls from it was amazing. It was amazing. And like I was group leader for some reason, but yeah, I'm quite an outspoken person. Like I like putting myself out there, you know. So I think that's what they saw, and what was cool is that they did a film about it, and I was one of like the people in the film, and it was cool because then you use that as how you pitch yourself. You know, you go like, yo, this is me, this is what I do, this is my work, this is what I've done. So when you win that portfolio night in South Africa, obviously the creative directors here are all like, we need to get this guy. So I knew I had so everybody that I'd seen, I had an offer from. So I was like, okay, if I'm leaving, I know I've got a job.
Amazing.
That's amazing. You know, that's crazy. So went to New York. That was amazing. Came back and, it started from there. I chose Promise. Like Promise was a small agency at the time.
It was a small.
Yeah, Mark, the creative director, like he got me, you know, like it was cool. It was like the chat between him and I was amazing. And that's what turned my ear. I was like, wow, I'm really comfortable with talking to this gentleman. So I'm gonna go work for him, you know? He made me believe in what he wanted to do. And that was important. And he believed in me. So much so that I remember we were pitching on Castle Light, right? And he made me do the key visual for the campaign that we were pitching on. And like the whole agency's like, who's this new kid doing this key visual? You know what I mean? And we won Castle Light, and I was there in the pitching presentation as well. So that was how my career started, you know. And it was like from there I couldn't hinder it, because it's like, okay, all the steps, all the foundations are laid here. You've got people who believe in what you're doing, who back you all the way, and you've got friends who are as motivated as you are, who you are always going to back to, you know, motivate you as well. You're in a good environment. Don't mess this up, you know? And now all I'm doing day by day is creating this legacy, so I can go to my mom and be like, remember that failure at his open window? But like, yeah, my mom's amazing. But yeah, so that's the journey to how we've gotten to where we are. From there, because of obviously the international exposure, I got agents pretty quickly, and it started becoming this mess, man. I couldn't control the amount of traffic that was looking for my work, and I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. because I'm working at this agency, but I'm getting all these requests to do work. Like, how do I handle the situation?
Yeah.
But Mark, I was comfortable enough to go talk to him about it. You know, that's why it's important who you go talk to, who you go work for. It needs to be a very good relationship, you know. And if you don't feel comfortable, you shouldn't be there. And so I was able to talk to him about it. Like, yo, this is the situation. I'm working for you, but I'm getting all this potential clientele here. Like Oprah, bruh. Oh, I remember Oprah magazine was my first international client, and I was like, yo, this is happening. And he was like, yo, I'm not going to stop you from doing that as long as it doesn't impact your work, and as long as there's no like, yeah, as long as you're not working for like direct competitor stuff, you know, like that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I can do my stuff at home. That's fine. I'm not even going to work on freelance stuff at the office. And that's where like working late nights, I started falling in love with that idea. Like, okay, I go to work, I work, I come home, I work, you know? And that was, yeah, you know what I mean? And like, I had books of like concepts that I just written down. I'm like, I want to try this. So I could just sit down and like open a book and be like, okay, my Behance is looking nice there. How do I grow it? I want to make a nice project. Sit down, spend like a week on a project, upload that thing. I was there when Behance was still brown. I've got snapshots of like the growth of my Behance. It's actually quite an obsessive thing like that I had for a while. I'm gonna share that picture with you.
Looking at your work and like the art you create, I'm pretty confident that you are a bit of a perfectionist or OCD about detail.
I would say, I mean, perfectionist is more my wife. She's like she's OCD, which is hectic. So you can imagine like if I'm working and like she's sitting behind me, and like, you know, in Illustrator when you're using the arrow key to like adjust stuff, and it's like, okay, this isn't the perfect, and she's just sitting there like, and then you think you're finished, and she's like, and you're like, hey, this is my work. You know what I mean? It's like it's such a cool relationship. But yeah, I mean, art directors, man. But yeah, I love detail. Because like, I mean, that's what 3D affords you, though. You know, just like Illustrator, being in 3D space, it's almost like a vector situation. So you create what you create.
It's a vector landscape,
Yeah, and then you render bitmap, but like in the software you can choose to render whatever, and that world is amazing. Like, I love being in that space.
The space, yeah.
Like if I
do have a question, you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now I was gonna say, like, if I could just have a separate account where I'm showing like constant snapshots of like the process from like zero to the render. I want to create like that kind of platform where I'm like, and I think I've got that because I've got a big archive of all my work. So if I just go there, I was because of my wife, like her OCD, I had to learn to structure my my work and stuff. So everything is like
your folders.
And you know, clients, I've got round 1, round 2, round 3, final 1, final 2. And then in the final folder, you got like final A, final B, and it's like, so I've got all the stuff that needs sorting, but I've got it. I've got all my work, which is great. So in the future, like I'd like to share, you know, that whole process, like for someone who wants to get into the space, because it's also very difficult to understand how to start, you know, like a project like some of the stuff is if you don't have a concept of like 3D and like the understanding of where to begin. And if you come look at me and you go, okay, how do you start this? And I open Illustrator, you're going to be like, yeah, but I know how to use Illustrator. It's like, yeah, but that's where it starts. Like I start there, I lay out there, I design the shapes that I'm going to, the simple stuff that I'm not going to be able to do in 3D, because 3D is limiting in that way. Like when it comes to like structures like typography and like the stuff that I want to do to my typography, it's very limiting. But Illustrator is amazing for that, you know. So that we can get into that a bit later.
Yeah, I do want to ask you definitely about your process. But I first want to hear, you've worked with a lot of big clients, and personally, I love your work, and it seems like a lot of other people out there love your work too. But have you ever come across a client who, when you've produced a piece of work for that client, actually didn't like it? And what has that happened to you?
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's very important to put in kill fees, like in projects. Like, those are very important because a lot of the time, a client will come to you because they like your style, but then they'll tell you what to do. They'll be like, hey, I like your style, but please do this, right? And then you do what they want to do, and then they don't like it because it doesn't look like your work. And it's like, well, I mean, you know what I mean? It's very weird in that way that you would think that because you wanted this, here it is, you don't like it, well, maybe you should have let me do what I do. So it's funny in that way. So, yeah, like I think I've had 2 clients who've come back with something like that. I don't want to expose them, but I'm waiting for certain work to be published so I can publish it because it's so beautiful. Like it's some of my best work. Like thinking about what I like. Like when I look at it, I go, wow, this is so pretty. How could you not go for this? I mean, now that I think about what they went for, they really did want what they wanted. And my wife is a hater. My wife is like, oh, it's so not nice. And I'm like, I mean, love, it's nice. I mean, you don't have to be a hater because it's not ours. You know what I mean? It's fine. Because she likes collecting. She likes collecting my pieces, right? So whatever I do, she'll be like, okay, when this is released, I want to jump on this. I want to jump on this, which is pretty cool because our house is just like filled with my work. And I'm not someone who would do that type of thing, but I appreciate seeing it. I'm like, wow, this is actually quite cool. I need to get onto that because I love my work, but it's almost as if I don't have pride in it somehow. And then like her doing what she's doing kind of does that for me, which is cool. I'm like, wow, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like that you guys have that relationship where, in some sense, she can help you appreciate your work, because I think that's something that creative people really struggle with, because it's something that comes from you. You can see all the mistakes in it. You can see where maybe you didn't go into enough detail. But then when somebody else is like, damn, that's crazy, it sort of helps you actually see through somebody else's eyes the value of what you're doing.
But also those that don't like it as well.
That's also true. True.
I learned from a very, early stage that, okay, there are people that like your style and people that don't. And people that don't are the ones that fascinate me, because I'm like, okay, what don't you like about it? And if they tell me something that's constructive, I'll be like, wow, that's cool. If they don't like it because they don't like me, and it's like, oh, then it's fine. What about, I can't change that. So
and what have they said? What was some of the actual feedback that you've received?
I mean, some of the feedback is actually kind of lame if you think about it, because it's like, my style, I have a style, right? And then someone would be like, yeah, your work looks the same. It's like, yeah, but it's my style. What do you want me to do? My work looks the same. So something like that. And like, I mean, it must have been like back in my schooling days, because it hasn't been when I've been working. But like, obviously, agency work. We all know agency work. A lot of my work isn't on my Behance, because it's not stuff that I'm proud of. It's just good work that has made me money, because we all need money. You know what I mean? So it's just that situation where you think you're doing something well, but it's not what is required. It's like, yo, this is not what we want. This is great, but it's not what we want. We need this, and this is why we need it. It's like, okay, that makes sense. And the problem sometimes is I know when I left when like during Vega, and I think the second or third year of work, I was still having that issue of art director or artist, and I'm definitely an artist, but back then, like I had to come up with I had to be an art director. I had to come up with concepts for other people to execute. And I'm like, but I want to do the executing, you know? Like, I want to do the work. It's like, give me the concepts, let me do them, you know? That's what I'm good at. So it's like, you have to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And when you're in a space where you feel like, I don't feel like I'm adding value here, you need to be able to express that. Like, yo, guys, what am I doing here? I used to be in pitch nights on some...
Is that when you decided then to leave?
No, this was my first...
you kind of came to that realization.
And Mark sat me down and he was like, look, this is advertising. We work with concepts. Concepts are what sell. Like, you need to touch people's emotions. This is how you do it. You sit and you think. You're like, okay. So I sat and I thought. I sat and I thought. And sometimes I liked it, sometimes I didn't, you know? And I didn't like it more than I did. So I was like, I like creating work. All of the work that I'm getting from my agents and clients outside of agency is just execution stuff. Like, yo, make this. It's like, yeah, cool. Yo, make this. All right. Awesome stuff. You make it. Until I got a Christmas job from Walmart. I think Walmart has been, Walmart. Yo, that was a big job, you know? Now, normally, like I thought I had everything that was required to do this. It was just execution. I was building a neon alphabet for them. So I sent them the alphabet like in Illustrator. I'm like, okay, so this is the typography we're gonna go with. Cool. Get into 3D. Then each of them I had to make into like a whole alphabet into 3D, right? Wow. And then each of that you have to render billboard size. So it's like, okay, this is getting into a space where if a render is taking like 5 hours, right, for one letter, it's going to be a problem. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? Because when I get home, I still need to work on my machine. And then I was living with a roommate who also did 3D. And actually, I'm the one who brought him to the agency that we worked at, right? And we sat next to each other. We did 3D. We're like, yo, we're the 3D guys. Whenever anything is required, we did. Like, pack shots, we do them 3D. Like, if whatever was required within the agency, we did in that space. And so I got him on this job, and it changed everything because the job, firstly, was big. This was my first like ever. Like it was over R1 million, you know, type of situation. Yeah. Where I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is heavy. But obviously, Angry, you're working with someone, so you have to share, right? So that was my situation for the next month. I was working on this thing.
That's great.
But my whole attention was there. And so you're in a space where you're like, okay, if you can get this kind of project, like maybe like can you get this once a year, even if it's just once a year, you know, it's not that once a year, or even like once every 2 years, it's fine. Just like as long as there's a guarantee, you know, like of something like this, you know, it's like it's like it totally changes your perception of everything, you know, and you're like, yo, big client, individual. Look at this money. What happens now? And you need to grow from there. You know, you need to grow. I haven't even shared my Walmart stuff because there's nothing great about it. It's neon letters. Wow. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's my my proudest piece of work. You know what I mean? Like it's strange because when you put it on your portfolio, you can attract clientele like that. But I haven't because it doesn't sit in the space. Yeah. It doesn't sit in the space. Yeah. Just like you have to forego certain things. You have to be like, I need to attract that client, but I don't want to be in a situation where I'm like, this is not looking like other stuff. There's no details there.
Exactly.
Like, what is this? You know, it's not that. So from there, it was literally about how do I grow from there then? And sitting and like, every time I get home, I'm working on stuff that I love, then going back to the office, and it's like, it felt like a bit of a chore nyana, you know? I was like, I need maybe more time at home than the office. I don't know. I need something needs to change. So what changed is I went to a different agency.
Yeah.
You know, I went to Joe Public, and that was good and bad, because it was good because I got more freedom at Joe, but I don't think like Mark, they knew how to utilize what I could do.
Yeah.
And when I was at Joe, I was working ATL, and I needed to be in a design studio, you know? I didn't need to be in that ATL space.
Yeah.
I needed those ATL space guys to give me some stuff for me to work on down here. Like, yo, I can do your stuff, send it back to you. But I wasn't doing enough of this. I wasn't doing stuff. I had too much time. I was really in the office. It was like, it was great. It was great. It was a great time. I loved Joe Public, but it wasn't good for growth. Like, I wasn't growing, you know? And I met people who grew me though, like in terms of my mind and like what I love and what like motivation wise, like inspiration wise, like, yo, met a lot of different people, and we won awards. It was great, but I wasn't enjoying it, like in terms of work that I was doing, you know? And that's where it was Katt Phatt was taking over now. I was like, yo, I'm basically I've got another business, and I'm trying to fit in
a job,
this 8 hours where I'm barely doing much work in this 8. If I was working a lot at Joe, I don't think I would have left. Because even if I was getting a little bit of work here and there, I loved doing the work that I was getting, you know? I loved it. It was, I don't think, I just think it wasn't enough of that.
Yeah.
And so, even, I mean, if like myself and Pepe, who's like the Joe, founder of Joe, like I went into his office and we talked about it. It was like, yo, we can both see what's happening here. Because everybody could see, man. Like, I was really in the office. I had like the best machine in the whole agency, but I was really using it. And it was like, it was like it was like predestined to happen, you know. And I needed a different challenge, you could say. And that was a turning point. And we discussed it. I was like, yo, you see what's happening. I'm going to need to take on this new challenge. Katt Phatt, I'm going to try and build the studio. And he's like, that's awesome, man. That's great. Good luck. And I mean, we're working together now, which is great. I'm one of their freelance artists, which is good. So that's always good. You never burn any bridges.
Exactly.
You always try to build wherever you can. And one thing that I need is local work. I need local work.
Yeah. It's
so difficult because
sure.
Like, it's almost like there's no local there's no local exposure. And it's weird. Like, if
interesting.
During my Behance obsession, I am obsessed with Behance, by the way. If you type in, if you go to Discover on Behance, you
go South Africa.
You go people. I'm the most appreciated person in South Africa.
In the country.
Outside of...
Yeah, I know that. That's how I found you.
Outside of who? Studio Muti. But I mean Studio Muti, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, I pride myself on that, but how much local work is on my portfolio?
Yeah.
And that I don't like, you know? And there's also this thing of, okay, but why don't, just like a lot of the projects that you do, why don't you just create the kind of stuff that you want to do? And it's like, that's a good idea, but I need to do that knowing that I'm going to get those kind of projects, because you can create cool local stuff. But firstly, there's a big budget problem. Secondly, it's also like an aesthetic that I don't think the country really relates to that much.
Yeah.
You know? So those are the kind of challenges that I have. I'm like, I have all this international, clientele, but like locally, it's like, yo, your stuff is cool, but that's it. It's just cool. There's there's no big clientele.
Yeah, I've got a question around that actually, maybe, and it might change a little bit the direction of the conversation. But can you maybe speak to us a little bit about your style? Because your style is actually very distinct. Like, I think if I saw one of your works without knowing that it's yours, and then I saw another group of pieces that you've done that I knew were yours, I'd be able to sort of like bring them together, and I'd sort of recognize that they come from the same person. So can you maybe talk to us a little bit more about some of the inspiration of your style and like how you actually developed that?
Oh, the journey with my style started obviously with what I found cool. It's always what I find cool at the time. So in college, I found watercolor illustrations and portraits were pretty cool in Photoshop. So that's what I did. The following year, whatever I found cool, I did. The following year, whatever I found cool, I did. To a point where I myself looked at my portfolio and I'm like, okay, I love typography. I love this. I love this. But it wasn't a thing where I focused on them. It was just when I got a piece of paper, I would draw a specific thing. I'd be like, this would be cool. This is always how it starts. Like, this would be cool. This would be cool. This would be cool. I write it down, draw it, write it down, draw it. And then when I sit and execute something, it either I execute it exactly how I drew it, or it evolves. It evolves over time. Like I'm still working on a project called the Steam Deck, which is like a deck of playing cards. I don't know how long I've been working on this deck of cards.
Yeah.
Very long time. Very, very long time. But in that project, the Steam Deck playing cards, there's a if you look at the sketches, those are the sketches that I had. And the first one was the heart. I drew the heart and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And this is where I think my love for steampunk sort of like started emerging, I would say. I was like, this is pretty cool, mechanical. Like it literally starts from that heart, you know? And then I drew the diamond, and then I drew the clubs.
Ew.
Then after the club, I was like,
insane.
I want to make this club. The club is what started everything. The club is what started everything because I then took that club drawing into Illustrator. Then I traced the shapes that weren't organic. So I traced all the mechanical shapes. I was like, okay, this looks cool. I like the direction that it is going. And then I went into 3D and I started building. And the top, the clay version is where I was, and I was like, well, this is cool. I like this. Because it then had elements that had inspired me to that point. Like I love gears. I love industry. I love like, you know, the mechanical nature of stuff, you know, how stuff works. Like I love mechanical watches. I'm always wearing mechanical watches. I'm always staring at mechanical watches. I'm always on YouTubing, you know, double tourbillons or like watching Jacobs and Co. Like, you know, movements. Like that stuff fascinates me. That's one side. Another side are these floral shapes, you know, that are unique to the Baroque and Rococo era, where it's like they're part of like an architectural base in that time. And so if you look at architecture everywhere, like not everywhere, but like specific style specific to that era, it's filled with those kind of elements, you know,
decorative elements.
And so from there I was like, okay, these are things I really love. I love these elements. So bridging them, this project I think is what bridged them, you know, because there was another project. There was a Hellboy project that I did that was specifically steampunk and neon. I'm gonna before the Hellboy one, it was like a lot of neon stuff, and doing neon made me fall in love with typography and like made me fall in love with light and like different dynamic lighting option. Like that made me fall in love with type basically. And then experimenting further meant that, okay, how do I then make neon cooler than it currently is right now? It's like, I did so many cool experiments, man. But like on paper, I didn't need to go ham. I just needed to do little illustrations here and there, little illustrations here and there. And then before I went any further, like I had the Photoshop one. I think it's my most famous project. It's like a let me try and find it. But it's like it's the Photoshop icon, and then I just took that and created it in this neon style with like what's the word? Where is it? Here it is. So
are any of these works on your website? Do you do a lot of like fun concept work that's not real clients, or all of these
a lot of it, because the Photoshop didn't want me to do that. You know what I mean? That was something I wanted to do because I thought that was cool. Because I look at that icon every day. I'm like, that icon is cool, but it's not really in my style. It's always like
I appreciate that.
It's always in like a style that isn't really me. So I created something that was me. I had like back in the day, I had like icon changes, so I could create my own little icons and actually stick them there. That was pretty cool. And what I liked about a Mac is that you could hover over it and it got bigger. So I'm obsessed with that kind of stuff, And so that's what got me clients. So Adobe, like because of that,
the good work, the fun work.
Yeah, but because of that, like I started getting more traction on my Behance, and people started seeing the kind of stuff that I was doing, and then I started getting like online articles and like that kind of stuff, and that kind of stuff like spread quite hectically, back in the day, and so.
And I think, Katt, you actually sharing a very valuable piece of insight and advice there that I just want to pause on and make sure people actually realize, which is when we think about building a portfolio, we always just think about showing what we've already done for existing clients. But what you said you did, you literally went to go find things that you're passionate about. You put the time in to craft them, to create these beautiful pieces for your portfolio, to basically curate the portfolio of the clients and clientele of work that you want to attract. Because if we all just post the work we get paid to do, then we usually attract pretty shit clients.
or the work you're posting. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
exactly,
you're pretty good at the things we're seeing. Yes. Please do the things you're seeing for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, which is funny. So if you look at this Photoshop icon, right? I've pasted something in the chat, which is from the client Adobe, and we work together
compared to your other work
on this.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like this is the kind of work I want to do for Adobe. I want to do work that is in my style. It's like, okay, we can see your style. We like it. Here's a project that works in that style. It's like, hey, that's cool. Here we go. And then it's the first time you work with Adobe. You meet the clientele. You meet the clients, and they're like, okay, you form a relationship, and then from there you're like, okay, here I am. You're in the system, and then moving forward, that's the vibe. Like even
amazing.
Even I remember. I always used to be jealous of my friends who had like Apple as a client, right? And I was like, one day, because like a lot of clients you would get you get them, but there's not that I don't know what you would say, but there's not that gloss about the client. You want a client with gloss. You know what I mean? Like Apple. Or like Nike, or like these clients. So one day, out of the blue, Apple contacts me. They're like, "Yo, we're doing this playlist we need a cover for the playlist. I'm like, okay, that's cool. It's like, yeah, we need a 3D illustration. This is the genre. I'm like, okay, that's a cool brief. Hey, here's a genre. Create a piece of work. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You do it. I mean, obviously there's contracts and stuff, right? But the problem with clients, like cool clients like that, big clients like that, is a lot of the times you can't even share the work for like 5 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, as someone who wants to present that gloss work, you know, where you're like, hey, look at this, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. Like, you get your dream client, you work for them, and then you can't show what you did. It's like,
that's heartbreaking.
Like, I've
just show us.
Or even it's like, so I did. This is funny. I did that for Apple, right? I did another one for Apple. So 2 works for Apple. Some of my favorite pieces, and nobody's seen them.
Oh my word!
It's like so. What happens? What happens?
That would kill me.
And also, like, I can put Apple in my CV, but it's like I'm not a word person. I'm a visual. I'm like, look at this. You know what I mean? Yes. Look at this.
Yeah.
I don't go, hey bro, I work for Apple. I go, yo, look what I did.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one thing to say.
That's what it should be about.
It's one thing to say you did work, another thing to show it.
Dude, like, and especially if it's work that you loved doing, because it's very rare. Like, I mean, think about the Walmart and now the Apple one. The Apple one you love and you want to show it, but you can't. Walmart, I could have shown it as soon as I sent it to them, but it's like, well, I don't want.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, man.
I want to quickly ask you, Katt, you know, you've worked with a lot of big brands, and you earlier mentioned especially the Walmart job that you referred to, where, you know, coming into this industry, a lot of the times creatives have this perception that it's not a very well-paid space, being a creative in general. And then there is, for a lot of creatives, this time in their career where they get this moment, this light bulb moment, where you realize there's a lot of money in this space to be made. And you've experienced that. On a personal level, do you feel like the money, or now that you know the money that you can make in this space, has either changed your focus or your style, or the way you work in any way, or your values even?
It's very difficult not to, is it? Because, I mean, for instance, right? I'm working. My first job. I mean, I was this superstar coming from America, so my first job was good enough. Like, looking back at it, it wasn't a lot of money, but as soon as I got that Oprah paycheck, I blew it that first night. I remember that because it was a very good night, but very good lesson as well. Because the next day you get up and you're like, ooh, got paid nice, but money's gone. Because it's like, there was too much excitement, you know? Because you have friends and you're like, guys, this has happened. Let's go do this, you know? And like, you're in a space where you're like, I've always wanted to do that. I can do it now. And then you do it. And it's like, I've always wanted to do that. You do it. I've always wanted to do that. You do it. Then you get stuck in this place where you're like, it becomes your lifestyle. Like, depending on what your goals are, you have to set your goals. If you don't have your goals, you can get lost in the, lost in the sauce, as they say. So it's like, I've always been someone who likes doing what I do. I love the hard work aspect of everything. Like, I work very hard, you know? I work late nights, but I love working those late nights. I don't have to now, but I do because it's fun, you know? So it's like, it all depends on your motivations. Like, what are your motivations? My motivations are to create beautiful work.
Yeah.
Because I love the work that I make. You have to like what you do. And what motivates me is I create work that I like to see and I want to see. You know? Like, I want to browse through my work and go, wow, that's cool, to my own work. Even though I have inspirations, I have people who inspire me, and that my stuff shouldn't look like theirs, you know? it should be stuff that I look at it and go, wow, that's cool. Because you will get people who find what you do cool as well. And so that's always been my inspiration. And when you get a client who likes what you do, then they should value you, you know, like based on what you're doing. So if you get a client that goes, okay, I like what you're doing, but we can't afford you, right? Then you work out a plan with them. You go, okay, instead of trying to crunch this in the 2 weeks, how about you give me a month that I work it in between all my current projects, and we still get to the result you want, but it hasn't put any stress on me. I've gotten a new piece of work out, so it's a plus for me, and I still get paid. You know what I mean? So it all depends on you. Like, I love doing what I'm doing, so whatever I'm going to work on, I'll be excited about, because I put it in my portfolio so people can say, he's cool, we like that, and we want him to do that. And if you make me do what I like doing, I'm obviously going to keep doing that. So I think that's the number one piece of advice that I can give, is that you should like what you're doing. If you're in a space where you don't like what you're doing, you're wasting a lot of your time. Do you want to, give me baby. Baby's here. Sorry? Stand. Oh, you want me to stand? Do you want to see the baby?
Please.
Yes,
this is the real reason we invited you to the podcast.
Her name's Zoe.
Yeah, this is the only reason you're here.
Hello, Zoe. She is passed out.
Yeah, she's tiny.
Oh my word.
Zoe.
What's her name?
Zoe
Anything to
is
say?
so beautiful. Oh my word.
I think she just pooped, but that's fine.
Oh.
Aww.
Wow.
Okay.
Sure.
So
She's so peaceful.
on that note, actually, I had a question that I wanted to ask, because you mentioned at the start of the podcast you're essentially working from home right now, right? And I think and as I wanted to say it earlier on, but there's a lot of what you described in your journey, kind of from where you are now, that I can very much relate with, from the expensive education and the falling and failing a few times along the way, and then eventually going into an agency that sort of gives you the opportunity to, in some sense, establish yourself once you sort of find your direction. But one of the things that I thought was very interesting, that's maybe not around like college and all of that, that I think really shaped me, was the fact that growing up, my dad worked from home and my mom was a stay-at-home parent. So our house was always full. And we're 4 boys. So the house was always full. But over and above that, like, my dad was also pretty much unless he was on site, because he's an engineer, unless he was on site, he was at home. And I think that was one of the things that was, like, I think very formative in my journey, sort of, well, in my development growing up. And so I think one of the things that I wanted to ask you a little bit about is being an artist while being at home. Because especially once COVID happened, I think one of the things that a lot of creative people sort of experienced is learning how to make your home a creative space without it driving you crazy. Because I think very often, like, what you sort of, you've kind of got this space where you do your work and you do your creative, and then you get home and it's this place for you to sort of like decompress and de-stress, and you can kind of like leave the art and the work and everything relating to it out there. So can you maybe talk a little bit about how in some sense your lifestyle changed from sort of being in the agency and then coming home to work to like home and work being almost the same thing? For those of you listening, he's holding up an Xbox controller.
Yes, I'm holding up an Xbox controller because it's a very big part of my process. Okay. You need time off, but you need to enjoy your space as well. You know what I mean? I've made my workspace a place of joy. Like, I look forward to coming to the workstation because if I don't feel like working, pop open a game, jam. I'm like, ooh, that was nice. I go talk to my wife. We chill. I'm like, I really need to do some work. Today's not like that day, but you need to force it. So some days aren't that great because you genuinely just don't feel like working. You know, like those happen, and I don't know why those happen because it's not like you wake up on some. You wake up with the mindset of, okay, today I'm going to try and do A, B, C, D. I've written it down. Here it is. I need to do A, B, C, D. If I don't do this, then today has been a failure. And that was my mindset at the beginning of COVID. But now it's more. I'm way more relaxed now, and it might just be because I've gotten used to it. But I still don't think it's a creative space. You know, like I'm not in a creative space right now. Like there's junk everywhere. Like I'm a messy person. You know, I think that's what helps me because I see stuff everywhere, and like those things trigger other things that make me think about other things I've got remember what we talked about in the beginning about my screen, right? So insurance is big. It bought me this nice long ass screen where I can have like 6 different panels open, one with YouTube all the time, someone talking crap about whatever, I don't care, like just jump into stuff that you don't care about because why not? If you're just sitting there not filling your mind with, even if it's rubbish that you don't know about, it might spark something, you know? So a lot of people are I would say they're too focused on, like, it's hard. It's even hard to put into words, but they're I don't want to say they're too focused, but they're too engrossed in the work. Like, I love the work that I do and I do it all the time. But during the day, I think about games. I think about football. I think about soccer. I think about this. I think about this. I think about this. I have a baby, wife, this, family. There's so much stuff. So work has to be a part of it. Yeah. And like how much time you give to that piece of it is up to you. Like if you're a slow worker, it's more of a problem. I'm very quick. Like I'm very quick in doing what I need to do. I can write stuff down and be like, okay, by 1 o'clock this needs to be done. I can sit down and it'll be done by like 2 hours earlier, type of thing. So I can work pretty quick and pretty hard. And sometimes there'll be a deadline for me on Wednesday, and I'll start working like 5 o'clock that evening because a lot of my clientele are international. They wake up and I'm like, yo, you'll get it this afternoon, you know? And it works. It works in a lot of cases because a lot of the times it's very small changes. If it's a big project, obviously it's a different situation because that then consumes you, but there's not that many. Like right now it might be a problem because I'm currently working on 13 book covers right now. And I didn't know, but I am apparently a book cover artist. You know what I mean? So I didn't sit down and go, I want to create book covers. Like they just offered me a book cover to do, and I did it. They liked it. I got another book cover to do. I did it. Wow. And they liked it. Then I was doing a third one, and then I did a series of 3. Then I was doing. Then I was on like 10 book covers. Then I was on 18. Then I was on 25. Yo. Now I'm on like 30, in the 30s, and I'm doing 13 more right now. Wow. And I'm like, well, this is a thing that I do. I might say a digital artist. Or I'm a book cover artist, clearly, because my skill set and like the way my stuff looks sort of lends itself really well to this genre that people really like. And like I've clearly found this niche, you know, where it's like, hey, you are a YA fantasy book cover artist. That's very niche, you know. But there are publishers who are looking for that specific niche. Like, yeah, we want this specific artist. So when I get briefs now, I get briefs with my book covers. It's like, yo, yeah, we like this book cover with this book cover, so let's play around with that. And it's like, oh, that's interesting.
I suspect I might have seen, like,
you know,
I don't know if any of them have published yet, but I've seen some book covers that like lend themselves pretty like much to your style. So it'll be interesting to look at some of the work you've done.
It's crazy, dude.
But so
yeah,
I think. Firstly, before I carry on, I have to commend your storytelling ability, because I've been gripped pretty much from the beginning. And it's really been a pleasure.
Thank you.
But I think it's sort of maybe heading toward the closing stages of things. But a question that I do have, because like I've never seen a portfolio like yours, from the range to the quality. So like when you're at this stage, you know, where you've got, you know, you're the most searched South African 3D artist, like, on Behance. What are you like? What are the goals now? Is there a brand that you're looking for, like, to work with? Is there a piece of work that you'd like to do? What's the next goal?
So much to do, man. So much to do, man. Oh my gosh. Like, you know what the thing with my style is, right? It's hard to for a non-3D artist, it's hard for you to maybe grasp, right? Mm-hmm. I like my 3D level is very basic. A very basic 3D level. I have a very high design ability, mm-hmm. right? So I'm always trying to do this. I'm trying to do this.
Yeah. So bring them together.
So every time I'm trying to improve my 3D, I'm learning a lot of stuff mm-hmm. behind the scenes, you know, learning motion. I can go into motion design. Mm-hmm. I'm going into that space now. Like there's so much more that my style can sort of go into. Mm. And the problem is because there's so many areas I can expand into, I'm lost in the sauce. I'm like every day I go, okay, I need to learn this. Then I'll learn that, but it won't be a hard skill. Like I'll learn it, I'll do something cool, but that'll be that. Like I don't because I don't know what journey I want to take yet. I don't learn something until it's a hard skill, until it's something that I can just, you know, replicate when I need to. It's like, and that's what's like crazy about 3D. It's always evolving, but then I'm stuck in this space where I'm like, I need to learn this stuff before I get left behind, you know? So it's still more learning from my end, and clientele wise, clients come when they come. You can't just, you know, go to clients and be like, yo, give me work. You need to always just put yourself in the forefront and just make sure you're just always in the mix. Make people see you, you know, like, yo, this is what I do. Go on Twitter, put some work up. Yo, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. Get one like, it's fine. Someone's liked it. Get another one up. Get 2 likes. 2 people have liked it. Follow those 2 people. Talk to them about your work. You know what I mean? Like, engage. So, yeah, I think the creative journey is never finished. Like, whatever you're going to do, like the 13 book covers I'm doing now, as soon as they end, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in a space now where I'm like, oh, snap. God, nah. I was focused on this. What else am I doing? Yep. I'm not just a book cover artist, or at least I tell myself. But that's all I'm doing, guys. So it's like, I see an evolution, but I don't know what it is yet, and I'm excited by that. You know, I'm constantly telling my wife, it's like, yo, there's a space I need to fill, but I'm not there yet. Like skill wise and mentally to fill that space yet. Like if I find a local market, let's say, that would be a game changer, because all of a sudden my style takes on a different approach. You know, I can't just be using like 18th century French rocaille florets on South African stuff. You know, it's now different. I have to look into a different space, you know? So I want that challenge. And I've got a lot of ideas on there, but it's also like a time thing. Yeah. Okay. Now there's a lot more paid work. There's not much time to just play around. And but I would give anything for a lot more time. That's all. Yeah. It's like use the time that you have to create what you want to create, because when that time's gone, you know, it's gone. Yeah. What have you done with today? what did you do today?
Yeah.
You know, if had we not done this, I've done like 2 of my book covers, like at a stage where I've sent feedback back. I've sent ABC. I've gotten my 2 phone contracts. Like I've said, I've been out with my baby. I've done a whole bunch of stuff today. Some days I sit in and I'm gaming. It's like, okay, but there's a balance because I need to game because it helps you, you know. So it's like it's up to your your mental. Like, what are you driven by? What do you like doing? And so pursue what's in here, because you know no one can pursue what's in your mind for you.
Exactly. That is amazing. Katt, we could keep going forever. Like, I have to say that this is probably been the most engaging podcast for me, at least so far, because not only did
we must have many more. I like this chat. I need to know about Stephanie.
No, we could definitely do this again. That much is for sure.
Yes.
You know, maybe
Cool.
when you sort of officially release your card set, or if you have a big project that comes out, maybe we could do this again to talk a little bit more about a focused piece of work. But I have to say, from the storytelling to the actual quality of the work, like there were times even when you were chatting and I was looking at the work and I was getting distracted from the conversation because the work is just so beautiful. So I have to say it's really been a pleasure. And maybe before we wrap up, where would you say is the best place for people to kind of follow your journey, see what you're doing, and connect with you?
Definitely Instagram.
Okay.
Like if you want to connect with me, Instagram, because Behance is a mess, man. I've got so many messages there. I'm not gonna read your message if it's on Behance. So get onto my Instagram and like just shoot me up. Just be like, yo, what's up? I like your work. Let's chat. Or hey, I need some advice. I'm very, willing to give out free advice on any topic that I am able to. But yeah,
amazing. So definitely on Instagram, that's Katt Phatt, KattPhatt.
Yeah. Yes.
Katt, this has been a great pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and being willing to share your journey from the beginnings and the failures to the successes and the wins. And also
there'll be more failures up ahead. I can probably see some, but I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Also,
because it's growth. You know what I mean?
Thanks Zoe for the guest appearance. We really appreciate it. But I think thank you very much for your time. I think especially because your time is so valuable, really appreciate you making the time to chat with us. And I'm sure everyone that's listened has appreciated that.
Thank you very much, guys. I was actually quite humbled by your approach, Stephanie. So thank you very much. And Alfie, it was great to meet you. And everybody else for the Edit Undo family. We'll see you next time.
100%.
Amazing.
And let's leave it
Thanks so
there.
much, Katt. Cheers, guys.